Good evening and welcome to another episode of aPolitcally Incorrect Guyana. My name is KIAN Jabour and as usual, I am your host this evening. Well, we are back in action on regular programming. So we've had lots happening this week and I think we're going to have a very interesting show because since last week, quite a bit has happened in Guyana. And I think one of the areas that I'd like to discuss first, because I find it interesting that there was very recently, there was the Press Association elections for the Guyana Press Association held their annual elections. There was some interesting details that seemed to have not enough transparency in them. And I think quite a bit of those small flaws were taken into context when it comes to certain organizations and blown up to quite a large proportion. Why I find this interesting is because when you see matters like this arising, it's always, I think for myself personally at least, the first thing I always tend to do is find out who the organizations are or who the people are that are creating, a narrative or pushing a narrative to really get a better understanding of what is causing this situation. So what happened is the Guyana Press Association called their elections, and there were certain members of the Press Association and certain people that are not part of the Press Association that decided that they had to, that they were contesting the election and were going to push the narrative that the election itself seemed to have been rigged because there was no accountability and transparency. What you did find interesting is the issues that they were bringing to the forefront, and this being Neil Marks and Newsroom. I saw NCN and DPI and a couple other government organizations taking it up. I then saw, right here, I saw the Guyanese Critic had a court matter brought to the courts against the Guyana Press Association to halt the elections. And what had happened is they had said that there were certain aspects of the process that were not transparent or flawed. We can get into all the fine details, but the truth is, what I tend to do first is look at precedent, meaning, well, is this how it's always been done? Has there issues been raised in the past? Now, I'll be the first to tell you that does not, just because there's not been an issue in the past, does not mean there isn't an issue with it. I myself can personally say that I think that there are definitely aspects of the process of the Guyana Press Association electoral process, that definitely needs to be refined, that definitely needs more transparency, I think is important. But what has happened is during the process of these elections that has always been held, what you found happening this time was this group of journalists have now decided that they have an issue with it. And they decided to go, and I'm going to be very honest with you, it was quite it got all the way to court. So it was quite an aggressive approach to not only change the process, but create a narrative that there was a flaw with it. Although these are people that have accepted the results in the past, not to mention have participated in the election in the past. So you find it very interesting that all of a sudden now there was an issue to be created. And nonetheless, the election did go off. The court matter happened. The Chief Justice threw the matter out and said, that basically there's no substantial laws that are hindering the electoral process with this organization, and they were free to run. Their election. The election was held, and I'll ask the operators to pull up the results. Miss Nazima Ragobir was re-elected as the Guyana Press Association president in a when they say highly contested election. Well, it was only her and Neil Marks that were running against each other. And she won by, I believe the numbers were around 70 votes to 20 in favor of Miss Ragobir. So she, once again, is now the president of the Guyana Press Association. What I found very interesting as well was, as of late, there seems to be quite a bit of a tension leading up to this election, as in the last couple of months before the election, in which you saw not only local organizations speaking out with regards to press freedom here in Guyana, and again, press freedom meaning hindrance to allow them to do their job, free of obstruction or any kind of hindrance. And then you saw the international community stepping in as well, stating that, making some very bold statements. Actually, I think it was the first time the ABCE countries came together and did a joint statement since the 2020 elections. And the statement was quite clear that, Guyana, the Press Association in itself, press around the world is one of the pillars of a democratic society, and they need to be given the chance to free and fairly do their job without any repercussions, to their journalism and reporting. And what the international community alluded to was that the press here in Guyana are not always given free and fair opportunity to do their job, whether it be banning certain journalists from attending press conferences, or whether it is pulling TV licenses and that sort of thing to ensure that basically only one group of media is pushing one narrative. And in this case, as you can tell from the organizations that I mentioned that were creating the issue, it seems to be a government-led group of media operatives that have decided that they no longer are on board with the Guyana Press Association. Not to mention Neil Marks, being an editor at Newsroom, also works very closely with the Office of the President, the Office of the First Lady, was contesting the election and subsequently lost. So I find it very interesting that at this point in time, the media has created this this dilemma. And it seems that two factions, as we know, I had Timothy Jonas here yesterday mentioned, the country, the media in this country is, at least 99% of it, is torn between, being on one side of the fence or the other. And what we saw occur here is a large aspect of the government media not being happy or not being content with the Guyana Press Association, and thus launching this attack onto them. Nonetheless, as I mentioned, the elections went on, and Ms. Ragobir is now president, and we move along and forward, and wish for, hopefully for the next year, that the media, the Guyana press, can be fair and unbiased and free. As mentioned by the international community, they are a pillar of democracy or anywhere around the world, and they must be allowed to do their job in that manner. All right. This came up because I found it very interesting that just today again, this election happened a week ago, but then just today again, yesterday, the Vice President, Bara Jagdeo, had a press conference, which he once again has attacked the Guyana Press Association. And thus they released their own statement, the Press Association, speaking about the hindrances and issues that they are facing from the government of Guyana. So nonetheless, it's a back and forth conversation that's happening. We one of the conversations is who exactly is a journalist in Guyana and what determines a journalist in Guyana. And I will give my opinion on who is a journalist and who shouldn't be, and much like who an engineer is or who a doctor is, or a nurse or a teacher or any of these professions, I believe the truth of the matter is, if you one of the key ways to look at determining who a journalist is should more than likely have something along the lines of a formal education in the industry. And yeah, I mean, realistically, if I come out here and regurgitate news from other areas, I mean, theoretically, that makes me a journalist. Please listen to me very carefully. I'm in no way, shape, or form a journalist, nor do I claim to be. But I think one of the main areas we need to make different categories for, one of the main areas that need to be differentiated, is the idea that there are journalists, then there are people like myself, I think I'll consider, which are political commentators, and then there's activists. And all of these areas, all of these types of jobs, for example, can be misconstrued as some form of journalism. But the truth of the matter is, we're walking into very murky waters here when we start to call everyone journalists. And I think journalism in itself is a very highly respected profession. As we know, some of the most influential people around the world come through journalism. And I think one of the areas that we need to take into consideration is that not only do they need to be given the luxury of doing their job free and fairly, but understanding that how they carry themselves in a professional manner, whether it be unbiased, and those types of things, it understands that when it comes to a country like this, you have so much influence, you have so much opportunity to spread propaganda, you have so much opportunity, especially now with the internet, that you need to be very cautious in the people that you are calling journalists, because those people should be held to a higher standard. Again, like I said, there are other areas in the media, for example, political activism, political commentary. For example, Mr. Freddie Kissoon, to say, a journalist, I may, and this is no insult to Freddie at all. I'm not sure if he'll even call himself a journalist. What I can argue he is definitely is a political analyst, a political commentator, because if you've watched his work, those are the areas, and I believe that's what he studied and so forth. So we need to be very cautious with these types of situations. I think it's very important that that everybody has a better understanding of what these people's jobs are and how they need to go about doing it. Nonetheless, I'm going to just quickly let you know, our number here is 689-8474. I see my phone ringing. I do have it here with me today, the apolitical phone. You can reach me on this number locally, or that exact number is our WhatsApp number as well. Please feel free to reach out to us, and I'll take some phone calls today, as I am here alone. And as much as I enjoy the sound of my own voice, I'd love for you to participate in the conversation. Nonetheless, moving right along, we have another very interesting developing matter here in Guyana. And I think it's something that, again, certain media houses, certain journalists, if you will, have been quite silent on. And what I'd like to always make note of, I am, as a political commentator, I am always cautious in ensuring I'm at least showing both sides as much as I possibly can. So what you'll find is a lot of the, not all obviously, but a lot of the articles I'm bringing up are from government media houses. And I try to make that very clear, so at least I didn't create the headline, or it's not coming from a compromised area. So I think it's always very important that the source of your information can be verified. So again, getting back to this situation, another interesting developing matter is there was recently a court case that occurred between a few citizens and the EPA and ExxonMobil. And Exxon, obviously, the oil company operating here in Guyana, not the only, but the largest at the moment, and the one that's currently pumping oil, producing oil here in Guyana, but the only one at the moment. What I find very was phenomenal about this is, I don't think, again, let me try and start from the beginning. I don't think everybody fully has grasped what has taken place. So about a week ago or two, there was a court matter that came to a conclusion in which a group of people had gone to the High Court to take the EPA and ExxonMobil to court, claiming that there was not enough, there was a breach in the laws of Guyana stating that this company was not fully insured or has enough coverage for an oil spill, in event of an oil spill or any kind of disaster in that oil industry in which they are operating. And it went to the court, and the group of people took EPA to court and Exxon as the two EPA obviously being the organization that is to protect Guyanese, a government organization, semi-autonomous. Nonetheless, the board is government appointed. So I'll call them a government agency for lack of them being anything else. This agency has been put in place to protect Guyanese, to ensure the environmental protection agency, to make sure the Guyanese, our environment is protected for all of us, the citizens here. Nonetheless, the matter went on for some time and then came to a conclusion about 2 weeks ago, in which the High Court has determined that Exxon did not have enough coverage, and has made the ruling that, and again, this is very contentious, and you have to be very cautious with my words, because we have to understand what exactly the ruling said for people to be very clear. So what the ruling said was that Exxon themselves needed to have unlimited parent company liability in case of oil spill. So what this boils back down to, again, I'm not an insurance professional, but what this does boil back down to is ensuring that if there is an oil spill, Guyanese do not have to pay for it. Okay, that's what it boils back down to. We're going to get to all the fancy terminology. People will go back and forth, left, right, and center on what it means, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, just to break it down completely to its purest form, it is to ensure that if there is an oil spill through the production that Exxon is doing of oil here in Guyana offshore, if there is an oil spill, something goes wrong, and oil starts coming out and poisons our waters and damages our environment and country, that the money that is needed to clean that up will not come out of the pockets of Guyanese. That we do not have to pay for this. Bear in mind, Guyana has nothing to do with oil production. We are a partner in the company. We have absolutely no aspect of the actual working of these rigs and drill ships and FPSOs, etc. Okay? We don't have any control of it. Exxon controls all of it. So if something goes wrong, it is Exxon's fault. Okay? And the companies that work for Exxon are contracted by Exxon. So let's make that clear. Now, there have been quite a few oil spills all around the world. And what we found very interesting is the current insurance that exists, because there is an insurance already existing for, I believe it's between $2 billion to $6 billion. Well, we all have, I don't know who's seen the movie or who has watched the news. BP had maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I'm not 100, I can't remember the exact date, had an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And unfortunately, quite a few people died. It was quite a big catastrophic event. And millions of barrels of oil ended up in the ocean and basically poisoning the waters and destroying for many, many years that part of the world. And the livelihood of many people and the entire environment, to the point where they are still, as we speak, cleaning it up. They are cleaning it up. What's very interesting about that is just to think, over 10 years ago, something like this occurred, and it is still having effects. Now, as you know, every year or so you get an update on it, and they are in and around now, I think the last figure that came out was about 120 billion US dollars so far in their cleanup efforts. So far, 10 years later. Now, what's very interesting about this is you can't just take into consideration the money that it costs to just clean the oil up, right? Because there are machines and mechanisms and ways to do that, to clean the oil up. But the amount of time and the chemicals that are left, because it's never 100% clean, you're looking at not only for a 10-year span, you're talking about all the loss of income, you're talking about the lasting environmental damages, people that have lost their livelihoods, people that have lost their lives. You understand that oil spill is not just, a little bit of oil has spilled here and we just clean it up. That's not how it works. It has so many lasting effects. So, for example, something as basic and simple as our fishing industry, something that's already sinking and crumbling because of lack of government support, something already headed downward. Can you only imagine what will happen if there was an oil spill, out in the oceans here in Guyana waters? That'll kill all of that altogether. It'll kill all of everything along the coast of our country. It'll seep into our rivers. It'll affect all of our Amerindian communities. It'll affect all of, the nature, everything. It will destroy everything, okay, for years and years and years, more than likely indefinitely. So what they're saying basically is the $2 billion coverage that they currently have, 2 to 6 billion, is non-existent. It's no money at all. It will not cover anything. Okay, that's for something very minor and basic, something that wouldn't even be considered an oil spill, to be honest with you. Especially when you have figures coming out like 120 billion, $200 billion onward, that you can tell that these are the type of figures that you're talking about. So why I've brought this up as a topic of conversation is because what's interesting about it is the judge here has said that that they would like unlimited. This was their wording, and again it's been challenged as well. Unlimited coverage, meaning the oil company Exxon will have to cover all of the expenses no matter what they are. There's no ceiling, there's no limit. Okay, well, we paid $50 billion, so we're not paying anything more. You guys have to clean it up now. The High Court judge here in Guyana said, nope, you are covering all of it because that's what is stated in our laws. And the EPA, the government agency, has erred in allowing you just to have $2 billion to $6 billion coverage. So, what has happened there is the government, the High Court gave 30 days to the 30 days to the oil company, to Exxon, to get their parent company liability, the unlimited liability, and that 30 days is on its way up now. Where this whole thing went interesting, because if you think about it logically, well, this is great news for Guyanese. This is wonderful. The oil company that will create the spill, if there is one, has to clean it up. This is wonderful news. We should definitely move forward with this. Well, court matter ended. Decision was made. Lo and behold, the government of Guyana, meaning the Attorney General, the President, the Vice President, the government of Guyana, the PPP government of Guyana, who is the current ruling party, who has put the board in place for the EPA, so their government agency, the EPA, they have now decided that to enter the court matter to fight for Exxon. They have now decided that they are going to appeal that judge's ruling in which Exxon needs to pay fully if there's an oil spill, to say, no. There's going to be other ramifications financially for Guyana if you make Exxon completely cover the oil spill. You're probably sitting there going, if you're a PPP, you're sitting there going, wait a second, no, he must be saying something wrong. There must be a flaw in what he's telling us. And then if you're an independent-minded person, if you're somebody that doesn't just follow blindly, you're not just following the PPP with all their emotion. If you're somebody that has a little bit of logic and is sitting there going, yeah, that's a problem. There's something wrong there. Why is the government appealing the court matter that has nothing to do with them, that is forcing Exxon to cover an oil spill? Why? Why have you even gotten yourself involved? Why are you now participating? Why have you not let Exxon appeal it? If the ruling is aired, why are you involved with it? Oh, and they come out and they say, well, investor confidence. What do you mean investor confidence? The judge has determined that the law was not followed. So if the company that has come into the country to do business has not followed the law, what do you mean investor confidence? That's not logical. They have broken the law according to the judge. They have signed a contract. They do not have enough insurance coverage, okay? The EPA is supposed to protect Guyanese. The government of Guyana is supposed to protect Guyanese. I'm not sure how else to explain this. All right, and now that's where the matter is. So it's gone back to the appeal court. The appeal court, appellate court judges have decided to not put a stay order on it. So what a stay order is basically when you have different tiers in the court system, as everybody knows. It goes to the high court, then the appellate court, and then it goes over to the CCJ. The CCJ is the last court. As we all know, in the 2020 elections, we watched court case after court case. So the stay order would have to be put in place by the higher court, meaning in this case, the appeal court. And the appeal court has said, no, we're not putting a stay on that. Exxon has to get that coverage within the 30 days, or they'll be in breach of the judge's orders. The court case will continue. We will go ahead and appeal it. We will hear the arguments, and we will make a new decision or uphold the current. But during that time, because court cases can take years and years and years, especially in Guyana, but in the meantime, Exxon has to be fully covered. So, with that said, today the president of Exxon Guyana has done a press conference, and he made the statement, I'll ask the operator to bring it up, that Exxon fears a halt of operations at Liza Phase 1, but a hopeful appeal court will save the day. Okay, so Exxon Mobil fears halt of operations. So now you have this media company putting it across that Exxon might have to stop their operations. Now, again, let's try and use a little bit of logic here. The judge has said you need to get this parent company liability within the next 30 days to ensure you're covered. And we need to be very clear in your following of the law. You have to abide by the law and the ruling in order to continue operations. Now, if somebody does not abide by a judge's ruling, they're in contempt of the law. They've broken the law, because the judge's job is to uphold the law. And what the judge has made very explicitly clear, and again, any logical person would think, yes, you probably should stop operations because an oil spill can happen at any time. So let's say something horribly went wrong right this second, knock on wood, horrific, and there was an oil spill. Now you tell me what Guyanese are going to do. Because as of right now, there's only $2 billion coverage. What do we do? You have to follow the law, get your coverage, and then fight it. Okay? And then I think there's one resounding bit of information, whether you're PPP, whether you're APN, whether you're independent. The fact of the matter is, you do believe that $2 billion is not enough. We all know that an oil spill will cost more money than that. So the truth of the matter is, at this point in time, you have to abide by the law. As Exxon said, they're hoping that the appeal court saves the day. Well, you're hoping that the appeal court saves your money, but who's saving the environment? Who's saving Guyanese? Who is protecting us? Because the government fighting for you, the EPA fighting for Exxon, the government fighting for Exxon. Who's fighting for Guyanese? It seems like the only one here, luckily, is the judges that have made this order. So, not to mention, I would just slowly just put this out there as well. Another ruling was recently made against the government in a court matter involving one of the previous administration, the APNU ministers, Winston Jordan. and the judge scrapped the court case, and the government has once again gone and attacked the judges. So we've been following that very interestingly. Apparently, anybody that goes against the government will be attacked. So this seems to be the common trend of what's happening here in Guyana now. Well, we're back to pre-2015 when, this bullying and victimization mentality. But now they've turned their aims on to the government. The PPP government has turned their aims on the judges, has turned their crosshairs on the judges. Apparently, the judges of Guyana are making poor rulings. So they have now decided we are going to attack them. Well, guess what? Again, as an independent person, which you have 50% of the electorate, at least 200,000 people following your party. When your leaders go out and attack judges, what do you think your people are going to do? You are not allowing these judges to free and fairly do their job. Now you have ridicule. You, the bosses, the people at the top are attacking and ridiculing the judges for doing their job. And coming out and making statements that are aggressive and attacking. And now what do you think your followers are going to do? That's the kind of leadership we're having? You just, because somebody has gone against you, you've lost how many court cases through this for the last little while? The Police Service Commission, all the EPA matter with Schlumberger. How many court cases? Now the EPA with Exxon and the insurance. As you lose these court cases, what? You're just going to just keep attacking? Obviously, that means you're doing something wrong, because I would like everybody to know this and make this very clear. It's different judges. It's not one judge just don't like the PPP and ruling against them. Every single one of these matters have been different judges from all aspects, even the appeal court. So what's the argument? We need to be very cautious, and I think we need to have a little bit more responsible leadership here. I'm happy I've noticed the Bar Association, not the Bar, the Women's Lawyers Group has come out and, condemned it. We've watched, the Press Association with their remarks. And I'm happy to see people are getting a chance to speak up for themselves and say, no, we are following the law. The courts have said we are. Now you're attacking us. So nonetheless, again, I am, a businessman here, and I have to understand that at this point in time, unfortunately, I guess it's the beginning of the Dutch disease. Guyana is heavily invested in the oil industry. Basically, the only aspect of our society right now that's making money is anything related to the oil industries. So, even the money that we're doing our construction with is coming from oil. All the roads that are being built, except full stop, all the roads. Other than that, all the buildings you see going up, all the private investment are coming through people that are going to be feeding off of the oil industry. So, halting the operations would be unfortunate. But nonetheless, on a very much larger scale and proportionate, we have to understand that we have to do not what's best for one group of Guyanese, but what's best for all Guyanese. And in this case, all Guyanese need to be protected. So, that was an interesting. Again, I'm not a journalist, just having my commentary on current affairs here in Guyana. Nonetheless, moving onward, this is a very interesting one. Today in the news, just today, as a matter of fact, literally maybe hours ago, we had a very interesting scenario. Where we had an escapee. And this is actually a very unfortunate and worrying situation. I think unfortunate is maybe a little, unfortunate I think is a little of an understatement, but there was an escape that occurred recently, which is a notorious mass murderer and death row inmate, Royden Williams, escaped from Mazaruni prison. Details now emerging. So this was actually an extremely worrying situation that has occurred here. I'm sorry, I'm just looking. I try to, ensure that I get as much of the information. Nonetheless, there seem to be some recent updates that it occurred at the Mazaruni prison. This particular inmate was one of the masterminds behind the Bartica massacre, in which 14 or 15 people died, many police and citizens, in which they went in and murdered, in cold-blooded, many people. So this is an extremely worrying situation, and apparently it was quite the daring escape where the use of AK-47s, automatic weapons were used in the escape, which was successful. So there's currently a manhunt occurring from the Mazaruni prison. They've gone, and hopefully this situation can be resolved sooner than later, because these people are known to be very, very dangerous people and have in the past done some very, very horrendous things. So we're hoping that the law, the police, and everybody in Guyana, we wish them luck in getting these fugitives brought back to justice. Moving on, I have another picture here that I want to share, but I have to be very cautious with it, because I try to make sure that, there we go. I just sent it to the operator there, so I've asked them to post this one. The Rose Hall Estate, sugar estate has been brought back into action. So there was smoke coming. They're doing the testing phases. I'll read the article out. It'll come up in a few seconds on the screen. The Rose Hall Sugar Estate on Tuesday quickly garnered the attention of residents in the East Kanji Berbice. Sorry, I sent another version edited out. Yeah, the new version. So I usually just screenshot these, and then I bring them and put them up. Sorry, not to put anyone's name or so on. This is just Facebook feed. Nonetheless, the residents in East Kanji Berbice, for the first time since its closure in 2017, smoke was seen emanating from the chimneys as testing continues with the managemental staff for the reopening of this Gaisuko estate. Now, this is a very interesting scenario. Why I find this extremely interesting is, I think if there's another resounding, unanimous kind of opinion, is that sugar in Guyana is not only riddled with corruption and theft and mismanagement, but it is a dead industry. We have had government after government, group of people, management after management, try to make this thing profitable, and it has failed every single time. We have watched billions of taxpayers' dollars get pumped into it. You guys are free to bring up the, bring up the article so everybody can see. Billions of dollars, taxpayers' dollars, citizens' dollars has been pumped into the sugar industry and has failed over and over and over again. Now you tell me what you think is going to happen now we have reopened more sugar estates. How is this going to become profitable? Show us any feasibility plan. Show us any time in the last 20 years that sugar has been successful. Why have you not privatized this? Why are you still using taxpayers, billions of taxpayers' dollars, to reopen it? For it to what, fail again? We have proven more than once that we cannot produce sugar in Guyana anymore for cheaper than the world market price. It doesn't make any sense. We are losing money here. This is just literal political manipulation. Obviously, votes need to be won, so they go there and they throw money out. They know that it's going to die, and they keep the sugar workers at bay, and keep them at a basically impoverished level of life, and claim that they're giving them work. All the other taxpayers, yes, I agree, the sugar workers do need work, but in a sustainable manner. What, it's going to just fail again, and then what, you're going to come in as a savior again? You have set up the sugar industry to fail again using taxpayers' dollars, and it's going to fail. And then you again, I promise, within the next 2 years, but probably just around elections time, look at all, sugar in shambles, but don't worry, we're going to fix it after elections, because they're going to be the savior. Create a problem, become the solution. Over and over and over. Wow, my gosh. We're hiring new, look how much work we're doing. We're hiring new nurses. We're hiring new doctors. We are solving our nursing, our medical, our health issues. Guess what? The health issues have been created by you. Why do you think the nurses are leaving? Why do you think the whole health system is in shambles? because you have failed it already. You're not paying the people properly. You're not paying nurses properly. You're not taking care of them. You're not giving them the proper facilities to work in. You're not giving them proper working conditions. You're not respecting them. What are they doing? They're leaving. So you have now treated these nurses poorly, paid them garbage. They have left. But don't worry, guys. We're going to fix the problem. Why? Because the new nurses that are coming in, what? They're going to work for less money? What do you think they're going to do? Not leave and go wherever the other ones have gone? To England, to Canada, to around the Caribbean? Where do you think they're going? They're going for better jobs and better lives. This doesn't make any sense. Just use a little bit of logic. You are the problem. The government has created the problem. And now we'll come in as a savior. Same thing back again with the sugar estate. Here's some more money. Let's start up a new sugar estate. Then guess what's going to happen? It's going to fail. Don't worry, guys. The PPP, we are going to fix the sugar. We're going to hold a big rally in Rose Hall, and we're going to bring all the sugar workers together, and we're going to tell them that we're going to save them and make their lives better. Well, you're the one that created the problem in the first place. And you know what the difference is? People are starting to realize it now. Okay? The few that are making money, that are getting all your government contracts, which is what? 1,000 people in the country? They're talking loud. Look how much progress. Look at your own individual lives. Are the teachers, are your lives better? Policemen, are your lives better? Doctors in the public health system, are your lives better? Engineers working in the public sector, are your lives better? All of you out there, everyone, bus drivers, taxi men, are your lives better? Or are you just hearing about progress and buying into something that doesn't really exist? Oh, but they've raised the money. Look, they've given, what was it, a 7% raise? Let's say the oil industry came in. I had this argument yesterday. The oil industry came in. Wonderful news. The oil industry came in. People have gotten jobs. How much do you think people get paid? All this semi-skilled and unskilled labor. Even onto the engineers, our local engineers. How much do you think they get paid? $400,000? $200,000. How much do you think the drivers, all of them driving, all the expats and the oil industry workers around getting? $250,000 a month. So yes, but that was more than they were getting before. How much more? Like 100% more. A driver used to get paid $100,000. Now they're paid $200,000. Great. Now let's talk about cost of living for a second. So all this more money you see come in front of you. It's not more money if you have to spend more. Now, how much has rent? How much has housing gone up? How much has groceries gone up? How much has food in the market gone up? How much has fuel in the gas station gone up? Now, let's look at it proportionately. You're making more money. Yes, you're right. That's progress. We're making more money. Yeah, but you're still impoverished because the same percentage that you're making more, the cost of living has gone up. So you're actually not making more money, are you? You're actually not saving more money, are you? You don't have a better life now, do you? It's the same hustle every day. You got to buy groceries. You got to go and scrape and scamper. You can't go out and drink 2 beer. You ain't got money. Just talking in Guyanese terms. Come on, guys. Let's be realistic about what's happening here in Guyana, okay? There's more that needs to be done. They spent $35 million US bringing in e-ID cards. For what? For who? What do we need e-ID cards for right now? Tell me what aspect of society is lacking that these e-ID cards are going to solve. Tell me. Because they keep in the government ones. They keep in the GCOM ID cards. So now we have 2 ID cards. One e-ID card and one GCOM ID card. So now you tell me what we got in for. What we spending $35 million US for. Money that could go and be given and put on salary scales. Bonuses at the end of the year. Developing the working conditions for the teachers. Giving them more supplies to teach, fixing the schools, putting them in better condition. Oh, don't worry, but I see on the news that schools being fixed. Well, how about you have a conversation with any teacher and ask them how much more wonderful their situations are? That's what you need to be realistic about. Because they still ain't making more money. But this government has this wonderful mantra. Don't worry, we're going to build roads. Don't worry, guys. Roads billing. Life better. Progress. We building roads. They build a new school. They build a new police station. They put it on every single news media. Every minister share it. Look at the progress. Because you've built a building, that's progress. The building wasn't the problem. Can you show me if you've done any work on the curriculum? Show me the updated curriculum you've done. Show me how people are now up to date with modern technology. Or if we're teaching everybody, it's the same curriculum from 50 years ago. Nothing. Tell me, is there some corruption in the police force? Have the police been treated better? You're building a new police station for them. Have you raised their salaries properly that they no longer need to take bribes? Are they responding quicker? Tell me. We live in a dream world. Talk to any doctor that works in a public hospital. Oh yes, don't worry, we're building a new medical facility. It's great. Are you paying them more? Are you taking better care of them? What are you talking about? That's not progress. You're just giving your friend a contract to build a new building and then leaving everybody in their same crappy work environment conditions and pay. So the people aren't developing. We're just watching buildings and roads that done broken up 2 years later. Please. This is a very frank conversation. Again, I'm not a journalist. But don't worry, guys. We build in roads. Every two days, you see a new road being built. All right, moving on from my little... I do shows. Guys, please feel free to call. I can take a few calls now since I don't have too much time left. I've been watching the phone ringing, but my apologies. I haven't been answering. Feel free. A very frank and open conversation. Let me move on to the next topic. This is a wonderful topic. I have something of a small revelation I'm going to release at the end of this. So we're going to have a little conversation. We have had an absolutely wonderful scenario that took place in the sporting world. A young Tiana... sorry, let me pull it up quickly for us. I always like to make sure that I'm very, at least I respond accordingly. Sorry, I cover it properly. Sorry, gold for Tiana. Guyanese Tiana Springer copped gold in the 400 meter at the South American Under-20 Championships in Colombia, doing so in record time. This is amazing. The 16-year-old clocked in 53.3 seconds to erase the old mark of 53.44 seconds, previously held by a Brazilian. Springer, who is also set to compete in the 200, also copped gold, in the 400 at the Carifta Games earlier this year in Bahamas. Now, she just set a world record. This is amazing. She just set a world record for the under 16 games. That's really something amazing. That's unbelievable. You want to talk about progress? That's progress. She is going to be an absolute shining star for this country in the upcoming years. I really, really look forward to following her progress, and I really hope that she gets the support, because people like this young lady here, they need all the support they can to develop more. Bear in mind, when you've reached this stage, natural talent will take you so far, but money needs to be pumped into their training facilities, to their coaches, to their medical staff, to their travel expenses, to their housing. These guys understand what athletes do around the world. These guys at this level, these athletes at this level, they're not working a 9-to-5 job and then still going to practice. They do that at the beginning stages, yes, while they're developing. But when you reach the stage where you are breaking world records, this is your job now. You are a professional athlete, a professional national athlete for Guyana. Okay, and she needs to be taken care of and paid accordingly. And she needs to be given the opportunity to train and develop. And she will be an absolute shining star at 16, already setting records. Congratulations to her. We have something to look forward to in the next Olympics. So moving right along again, guys, that's the number. Sorry, I know I keep missing calls. I have like 5 missed calls here. My apologies. So please feel free to call. I see you on WhatsApp. There's a few messages here. So this was another, getting back now to the reality of Guyana, another one. There was a little situation. This picture was floating around social media with this young boy selling juice at a stelling in Guyana. I'm happy we took out his face. It was floating around Guyana, and people were all these very interesting mixed reviews on. You can take it down. I'm just happy we didn't show his face. This young boy was posted up selling juice, and it was quite a debate going back and forth as to whether or not support him. All of us, we've started work at a young age, and support him, and wherever his money is going. I guess they just need support, and he's helping his family, he's doing his work. And lots of conversation was, oh, at his age I was working, in my family shop or in my family rice field or blah blah blah. In my uncle mechanic shop I was doing my work. This young boy unfortunately is fetching around this cooler and selling juice to people that are traveling on boats, to and from wherever they're going, commuters. And it really, I was one on the side, it really, first of all, child labor is illegal. As much as you want to say that this is what Guyana is, and the older folks out there, the old school people are going to say, well, that's what I had to do when I was young, and look at me, I'm big and strong now. Well, the world is a very different place now, okay? Unfortunately. And what we'd like to see is more, really and truly, just more development in this country, especially for the young people. This is our future. These guys, somebody his age working, should be in school. I mean, not having to worry about bringing money home to his family. Think about his rounding of his life. I mean, I always laugh, and I sit here when I hear people say, "Oh, we used to do that at our age." Yes. That's why we're so broken. That's why we're having the problems we're having now. That's why we're destroying the planet. That's why we're in these cycles of society that are degrading. It's horrible. These people, these children need to be nurtured and developed as children. And there's studies, and it happens around the world, and we need to start taking some examples. This kind of thing cannot continue in Guyana. Talking about progress. Why do we still have children selling juice on the street? Where's the progress? In this case, again, you have jacket in this case, but again, just for the publicity, the one kid. Every time we drive on the road in Guyana, there's 100 children doing it. But the Minister of Education, Ms. Priyamani Chan, has reached out and found this young man and will be ensuring he gets a sound education. Well, thank you. One child is definitely better than none, I'll give you that. But nonetheless, if we still have hundreds of children around the country in his position, then how much are we really progressing? Right? Because as much as you've taken this one boy off the road, there's another impoverished family about to send their 12-year-old out on the road to sell juice. It's not how things work. Or should work. That's not what progress is. Okay, I am coming down to the end of the show here. My hour is almost up, and I told you guys I had a little bit of an interesting revelation. So, we have lots of international partners, especially myself being on the forefront of the media and the person that, is speaking up about certain things. And some very interesting information has come to light. Now, it has raised more questions than anything else. I'm going to ask the operators to put up the two pictures I sent you, the double. Now, this is very interesting. A little bit of research was done by some international-based folks, and they did a little bit of research into open corporates, the open database for the corporate world, meaning these are all the corporate companies around the world that are registered and where they're registered. And they decided to do a little search on Esso Exploration and Production Guyana Limited. Now, that's what you see right there. And what came up is that there's an account held in the Bahamas under Esso Exploration and Production Guyana Limited. Now, that's the name of the company. As you can tell if you go down the list, they have many other countries that they have Esso Exploration, Sarawak, Esso Exploration, Singapore. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, why is there an account open in the Bahamas, which is a tax haven, which is a offshore bank accounts, set up under the name Esso Exploration and Production Guyana? Now, we're doing research into whose name the account is under, etc. We're going to get that information soon. But we found it very interesting and curious as to why and how exactly this company has been set up in an offshore account. Now, let's have, as far as we are concerned, I would like to ask the question, what the public thinks an offshore account set up under that name can be used for. And we threw our collective minds together and we did some research. What are offshore accounts used for? Well, that was very interesting because we took our time, we did our research, we even went on to things like ChatGPT, the AI, and we scoured the internet. What exactly are the largest uses of offshore accounts? And the first one you came up with was tax evasion. Tax evasion was the first. Okay? Now, why was why exactly or who exactly are they trying to avoid taxes from? And I can only assume it's people like us. That they're trying to not pay taxes in Guyana. That's one aspect. The next one was obviously to pay bribes. Well, we found that one very interesting because that was one of the top research. Again, I'm just asking the questions. Again, if SO Exploration Guyana Limited would like to come out and tell us what exactly that account is for, we'd be happy to hear, and it would go a long way for transparency. So again, we now are finding offshore accounts set up in these oil companies' names, and we're wondering why so. So we're hoping that these are the type of little bit of research that we're going to be looking into in the coming leading up to 2025 and the progress the country is making. Nonetheless, guys, that was my little bombshell for you at the end of the show. I hope you guys, I know all the right people are watching, so I hope there's a few questions that are going to be asked. And more importantly, I guess the banks themselves can ask, why is our local banking sector not being used? I mean, why not set up the account here? Why in the Bahamas? So we'll wait and see where that goes, because bear in mind, it is the government of Guyana that is a partner in the exploration and oil production on the offshore Guyana. Nonetheless, guys, thank you very much for watching this evening. It is now 7:28 in beautiful, beautiful Georgetown, Guyana. We have no rain. We got rain for a couple of days, but we are back in action next week again. I would like to thank you all for joining me this evening, and who I would like to thank most of all, because I heard him mention my name recently. I'd like to thank the Guyanese critic for allowing me to host this show on his page here in his studio. As much as him and I, we go back and forth, we talk with story. The truth is, he has allowed me to use his platform here to speak on matters that we feel need to be spoken about from our point of view. So I think a thank you is in order for the Guyanese critic for allowing everybody to have the opportunity to come and voice their side, and again, more so for the public to be able to hear different opinions and sides of information. So once again, from aPolitcally Incorrect Guyana, thank you, and please feel free to WhatsApp me and message me right on that number or call me locally, even when I'm not on air live. Please WhatsApp me. Okay, WhatsApp is always the best. Message me on WhatsApp or call me on WhatsApp. I'll try to respond as much as I can and quickly. But thank you guys very much for watching again. Have a wonderful week coming up, and see you all back here next Friday. Take care.